Okay, so warm welcome to our session today. And today's session is on the power to discern. And so this is one of the 8 spiritual powers that we study in the practice of Raj Yoga. And it's one of those powers that I think is becoming more and more necessary in today's world. And especially because there are so many things that we need to differentiate between what is true and what is false. And the obvious is not anymore something that we can take for granted as the truth or as the reality for us. And the more and more we, as humanity, become better at making look-alikes. So whether it's for flavors, this was an amazing, actually quite rather shocking realization of how artificial flavors can taste, strawberry flavor tastes much more like a strawberry than the actual fruit itself states, And so naturally, the artificial flavor has more value, but it's artificial. And so actually, it's a little bit like saying, okay, well, I know that it's artificial, but I still choose that. And so, okay, I'll choose that. But what that means is that I lose sight of the truth eventually. And I think that also because in a sense, the real thing sparkles less. They say all that glitters isn't gold. And so I think we need to have that recognition, that eye of recognition, not just of what's true and what's false, but of what's needed, what's relevant, what's important for me, for my situation, for my relationships, for the world, for nature. And so there's a whole variety of things that we need to discern. We need to have that sensitivity to be able to perceive really what is what and who is who. We need to have that awareness that will give us the clarity, so that we can have the insight to see things that are not obvious. And so we're able to have that very subtle ability, the refined ability to see even the subtle things, the subtle differences that make all the difference. And so it could be when, even in terms of a vibration, so maybe someone said something and it sounded like something else, and everyone understood that something else, but I got a vibration. I picked up something that actually they were not meaning that. And so I was able to notice that, become aware of it, and maybe check it out if I can, or go according to that subtle perception that I recognized, that I noticed. And so this power to discern is something that I think is really more and more necessary to develop. And it's definitely something we can develop, fortunately. Something that gets very easily covered up and corroded and, in a sense, far away from, out of reach sometimes. And we'll look at that as well, as why is it? What blurs our ability to discern? But first of all, to think about some analogies, just to help us understand what is this power to discern. And one classical analogy that is often used for this power is a jeweler who is able to, even a good jeweler with the naked eye will be able to pick up a stone, maybe from the countryside, and will be able to see it and recognize that there is something very precious in here. And so they may not know the details, they may not have proof there and then, but something inside them is telling them, which is both based on knowledge and information and experience, but it's also something more than that, something about even you can say the vibration of that stone, that they recognize. Maybe they would never use these words, but there's something that's telling them. And that can be that inner eye that they're able to see. Actually, we need discernment all the time. So if your hand blender is broken, and you say, okay, well, I need to buy another hand blender, and you look in the shop or in the online and you see 20 different varieties, how do you choose? How do you choose one? What criteria? We need discernment when it comes to choosing a doctor, for example. And more, this is an issue, is that if something's happened, something happened to you have a boil that's come on your foot, for example, or whatever. And so you have to say, well, I need to decide, do I need to go and see a doctor or do I not? How do you know? And so this is something, the power to discern is something that we're using every day and many, many times during the day. And whether it's on a practical level, so to live our everyday life or buying things, looking after our body, in our relationships, or it's more subtle things, also to do with people and our situation, or it's even more subtle things to do with ourselves, which can sometimes be the most slippery, because we might be able to easily see what's going on for other people, but often we're not able to see that for ourselves. And so it's a real power to be able to discern, am I doing the right thing? Am I making the right choices? Is this the right time? Is this the right way? And so often we get confused about this and we get ourselves into a tiz, and get into a lot of stress and tension about whether it's the right thing. And so what are some of the basis of your choices? How do you know? What do you think? Just maybe either unmute yourself or write in the chat. What is it for you that tells you, on what basis do you make your choices? How do you know? Whether it's, whatever example comes to your mind is fine. Whether it's in terms of buying what brand of soap, or whether it's about knowing whether I need to make this choice, I need to invest this, I need to stand back, I need to be silent, or I need to say something. All of this, how do you know? What is it that's telling you? Any ideas? How does it work for you? And so it's an interesting thing to think about, really, as to Okay, so says Lisa, I try to choose according to my values and qualities I wish to practice. Yes, absolutely. And I think that is one of maybe the most important things to apply and to remember as we are faced with certain decisions is to be able to weigh it up with the situation on one side, my values and qualities on the other side. And sometimes they are in contrast to each other. So if I choose my values, it might be that my job is at risk, for example, or a certain relationship may be at risk. No? And so it's very much something that we need to weigh up. And great. So considering all practical aspects when making choices, but what makes the difference is often my intuition. Absolutely. This is an amazing thing, isn't it? That we might really have all the facts and it's obvious to everyone, it's obvious what we should choose. But something inside us, and we can call this our intuition or our conscience. And I think they might be two different things, but basically, let's say the intuition is telling us, hold on a second, actually, that does not feel right. I don't know why, but it doesn't feel right. And I'm going to check out the other option. So this is the thing, is that we, even if our intuition is telling us, we still need to evaluate it. No? So sometimes we might go on what we think is our intuition, but actually it's not. And this is where this is where we need to be very careful to make sure that the voice that we're listening to is actually the voice of our conscience or our intuition. Okay. So yes, let's see. We have some more ideas here. So when I feel the decision I have taken makes me feel good in the inner, so good inside, yes, indeed. Great. Yes, this is the thing, is that I think it needs to resonate with something. So this feeling good, in a sense, needs to be a deep kind of feeling good. Because also it's, in a sense, it's easy to feel good in a superficial way, where maybe we were justifying something, and so we're pleasing our conscience, or we're pleasing our sense of guilt, and so we feel okay with ourselves, that okay, well, I've done my bit, or I've you know, done something that somehow I don't feel as guilty, and so I feel good. So it's just to say that we need to check out our feelings and see that it's resonating with that intuition. So it's this checking inside. So whether it's the feelings, the intuition, the practical side, and so it's a whole evaluation that we're doing, and that we do often, or we think we're doing, but very often it's the thoughts that go round and round in our heads instead of doing some real good evaluation. And so, says Dominica, I also choose according to my values, my inner feelings, and the consequences my choice may have on my life and on the lives of others. So, yes, absolutely. So, it's like a 360 degrees choice, isn't it? And so, yeah, and it's also what we're ready for, isn't it? So, sometimes we know what's the right thing and what's going to help everyone, but maybe we're not ready for it. And so Yes, I mean, I just add a couple of things to what you've all said, really, is that one, the basis of choice, what's very helpful is to have a certain knowledge about it, you know, so that I have a clear criteria. You know, I'll just give you an example, is that here in the condominio, they want to they want to take the opportunity where the government is giving lots of discounts to redo the whole painting of the whole mm, surface of the building, the walls and the balconies and everything. No, to the whole thing. What's needed is just a little bit of work here and there, but in fact, it's been an interesting exercise to evaluate, actually. And so, gathering knowledge, gathering information, um, looking at the cost, trying to work out what will be the cost that we need to pay. And then giving our choice, then giving our decision. And so knowledge is really important. And so we say, well, actually, none of us really know all the ins and outs of this. Maybe the government pulls out and doesn't give 90%, as they say, and then we'll have to pay the whole thing. Is that a risk we can take, for example? And so, well, we say, well, we don't know. So let's ask an expert about this. So this is a very normal practice, is that often we say, well, I don't know, I don't have enough knowledge to be able to decide. So that's where it's very useful, actually, and interesting also to say, okay, apart from the kind of knowledge and the practical information, what's my intuition telling me? And what is my answer? And then to match it, to check it out, which maybe I have no basis really of making an intelligent decision. But then I get the information, maybe just a little bit, and sometimes you can't get the whole information. So maybe you just get a little bit, and that has to be enough. So because maybe we don't have that much time, maybe the decision, they're waiting for our answer. So many factors that in a sense demand the choices, demand us to be able to discern, not just well, but quickly. And so it's interesting to match that with what is the sense inside, what do you perceive inside. So that's one thing, is I think the basis of discernment, yes, is knowledge and information and clear criteria. So whether it's the cost, or the doctor needs to be a specialist and not too far away, for example, or so many things, so many factors that we might consider. On another level, I think very much what helps me to discern is to check my intention. Does which option fits my intention? And maybe none of them. So surely there will be another option. And that's what helps us to begin to think out of the box. So to go away from the obvious options that are in front of us. And if, for example, if I say, well, I want to go on a holiday. Okay, so before I can decide where I want to go, I want to write down what's my intention for this holiday. What is it that I would like to experience? What is it that I would like to happen for me at this time? And so if that's something that I can choose, maybe you're in a family and other people choose and other people decide. So then it would be another thing, another example. But it's about using our intention to help us to make a decision, to be able to see what is the direction, what is the in a sense the choice that's going to keep my values intact and also be practical for me. So sorry. Another thing that that of course is really important for our ability to develop this power to discern is to keep our intellect very clean and very agile. So our intellect is exactly that faculty which helps us to discern. And so the mind, we use our mind to think and to feel and to remember. But in fact, it's our intellect that is the capacity to see clearly, to know, to have that intuition, the conscience. And it's when my intellect is clear and strong and functioning well, that's when I will know, and my antenna will be able to immediately tell me when something is not quite right, or when I need to just slightly adjust my direction. And so it's the intellect that helps us to evaluate things, to weigh things up, so that we can make a good decision based on our power to discern. And so, of course, to have a clean and clear intellect, we need to exercise it. We need to give it good, nourishing food. And I think really important is the connection with the source, with the supreme, because that is what will ensure that I don't develop what we might call the arrogance of the intellect. So is when I've developed a good ability to discern, and I manage very well, and I've made some really important, accurate decisions. And so I drop my attention and I say, okay, well, now I know, and now I can just go by my feeling, basically, and I don't need to check it out. I don't need to evaluate it. And that's when the in a sense, the deception steps in. And it's because I think I know. And maybe I do know, but I need to know what I know. I need to check what I know. And this is the humility, is where I check it out. Whether I check it out with myself, or I check it out with the Supreme in terms of vibrations, or I check it out with other people, with experts, or with a friend, with someone whom I trust. So this is in a sense, it's like using the intellect and keeping it clean. So these are some thoughts about what could be the basis of our choices, to add to the things that you've said. And in fact, I think it's really very, many of the things are really very, very similar. And of course, and the whole thing that has come up very strongly about according to my values. And this is the thing, is that maybe my values and my standards are not the same as other people's. And this is something that we need to accept and take into consideration. So someone might be behaving in a certain way that for me is completely inconsiderable. And unimaginable. But whatever are their values and their standards, they are going according to that, maybe, or maybe they're not able to go according to that. So it's learning how to, in a sense, look at the self and use the energy that we have to discern and understand what's going on inside. Because I think a lot of our energy probably gets used up in looking around us. What are they doing? What are they doing? How did they manage? And so, on one side, it is useful if my intention is to learn more. But if I'm looking around me for the reason of justifying something that oh well, at least I'm better than them, so then that can also not be very helpful in my ability to make a good decision. So then comes the question is that what is it that blurs our ability to discern? Why is it that sometimes it's just so difficult to see what is the reality, what's the truth? And I think that this is something that we have all been through with this in this last year. So much has come up, whether it's from the scientific world or the medical world, from should we do this, should we do that, should we take the vaccine, should we travel, should we isolate, should we do this? No, what's the right thing to do? And so one whole group is saying one thing, and another whole group who is equally qualified and full of accolades is saying the complete opposite. And so, and there's a whole lot of fake news. Maybe there's a protest somewhere, and it looks like the people who are for that cause have created a lot of violence. But actually, it's the people who were against that cause who caused the violence, looking like they were the same group, for example. And these are things that are becoming so normal now, so regular. And so it's really not easy to have that clarity. But what is it? It's not just the surface or the superficial things that deceive us. There's other things that come in the way, I think, that we're not able to just know. We're not able to decide what is the reality and what is the best decision for me in this moment, for the people around me, for the people in my life. So what do you think is it that blurs your ability to discern? What is it that comes in the way to be able to see clearly? And so, of course, not for everything, but it happens, and maybe it happens regularly or occasionally. But when it does happen, what is it that comes in the way? And so, yes, absolutely, Britta, is the emotions and expectations. Yes, these are big ones, really. Is when we're under the influence of any emotion. It's a little bit like the intellect is shaking. And so naturally, imagine if you continue to move around like that, you can't see clearly. Everything moves. As you move, everything moves. And so we're not able to see clearly. And then also expectations, absolutely. Is that because if I have an expectation of someone or something, some situation that it will work out this way, then it's like I'm limiting my preparedness for something else to happen, also to face some other reaction or response that maybe I didn't expect. And that's what it means, unexpected. um, Fear has the ability to blur discernment, absolutely. And this is the sad thing in a way, is the inducement of fear is exactly the factor that says, well, I'd better do this otherwise. And so it's a little bit like a threat, actually, that comes in front of us, that if you don't do this, then you will have these consequences. Or you might lose this, you might lose your ability to participate in society, to have this interaction, to have the freedom to be able to, do and be and have whatever it is that we would like to. And so it absolutely blurs our discernment, our ability to choose well, and to see clearly. Lack of self-confidence, yes, absolutely, Anna. I mean, that is the thing, is that we may know that this is the reality, but because some authority figure or someone to whom we've handed over our power is telling us the opposite or something different, we trust them instead of trusting ourselves. And so to be able to develop this trust in our intuition and in our conscience, in that voice, in our opinion, and that is really such a big thing, to have that confidence in the self. Social conditioning, pressure, expectations, absolutely. Yes, and this pressure comes in so many different forms, isn't it? And it is, however, up to us to take it on or not. So I might feel that someone continues to tell me, someone may be important, people who are important in my life, no, you have to do this. You absolutely have to do this. Otherwise, I will be very upset. Otherwise I will be unhappy. And so whether it's that kind of pressure, or it's the pressure of, oh, well, I don't have enough resources, and so how will I manage? And I have to do this and this and this. And so these thoughts and this fear builds up on our heads like this pressure. And absolutely social conditioning. So even people on the street who look at you in a certain way, if we take that on board, we can be completely swayed by what is happening around us and what we've experienced, maybe also from our culture, from our childhood, and our religion, our country, whatever it is. And so, yes, all of that plays a big part in a sense, distracting us from being able to from being able to see clearly. And this is absolutely, just adding to all of that, is when we have many, many, many thoughts about something. So it's a little bit like what we call these waste thoughts. So superfluous thoughts is that I feel, because of the pressure, I succumb to the pressure, and so I think and think and think, and I try to think my way out of an issue. But in fact, maybe what I need is some rest, to give my mind some silence, to give it some nourishment, to give it some hope, to sense the gratitude and appreciation. And that is what will give me strength. And so I think that too many thoughts leads to weakness and tiredness. And then you say, well, who cares? I'm just go along with whatever they tell you. Do what they tell you to do. And so that can have a lot of harmful effects, consequences for us, not just on a practical level, but on an internal level of having gone against our own conscience, which is eventually what weakens us. And so absolutely, yes, it's all of these factors, giving too much importance to other people's opinions. This is one thing that I know for me has really played havoc in my ability to not just to make decisions, but to be able to see clearly. Is to when I give too much weight to what someone is saying. And so I think within all of this, what we need is we need boundaries for all of this to be able to say, okay, this is where I will make my decisions. This is where I'm going to ask for other people's thoughts and perceptions. This is where I'm going to ask for advice. This is where I'm going to ask for help. You know? And so, however, the decision in the end, in a sense, rests with me. And it's when we realize that we take responsibility for ourselves. And that's where actually our self-confidence can grow and our self-respect can grow. Because even if I make a mistake, I can say, well, I am responsible. So I will, I can choose that. It's my choice. I'm willing to face the consequences. But I want to choose. I will take into consideration all the factors. If other people are involved, we need to involve other people. So, of course, if I'm choosing for other people, and here we're not talking about children, because that's a whole other subject, is that yes, we are, as parents, the parents would be responsible for making decisions, for discerning what is the best choice for the children. But once we're adults, each one needs to make their own choices. And of course, we may need help to clarify our options. And this is where friends, people we trust, people further ahead on the journey who have more experience can sometimes be very, very supportive and helpful. And so I think that one of the most important things in developing discernment is this cleaning and clearing of the intellect. And so to check really at various intervals during the day, what am I accumulating in my awareness? Am I accumulating the imprint of conversations, of emotions, of many thoughts? Am I consuming my energy or am I using it well? And if I find that, oh gosh, my head is full of a whole lot of thoughts and worries, and I'm a bit upset about this and I'm irritated about that, then it's worthwhile taking a few minutes just to clear the air, clear the space, so that pure, that divine intellect, in a sense, basically our ability, our intellect is in its original condition very, very clean and pure. What we might call a divine intellect, the ability to see things as they are and make the best decisions for that moment and for the direction that I would like to live my life. And so whether it's the cleaning of our intellect or it's the reinforcing of it, so the nourishing through the connection with the Supreme, because we need to fill ourselves with love. We need to fill ourselves with that, in a sense, the the purity, that energy of nothing being mixed, is that I don't want anything so much that I would sell my integrity for. And so it's when I'm clean inside, that's when we have a lot of spiritual power. And of course, many things happen where we got deceived and we did something that was maybe against our values and against our conscience. And so we just need to realize that. It's no use feeling guilty or feeling angry with ourselves, but we need to realize it, recognize it, and learn for next time. And that's really the best thing, is to hear yourself saying, okay, what can I do differently next time? What did I learn from that? And so to be able to interact with the self with love, with honesty, and to be able to grow with that. And I think that, and it's often the best way to learn is through our mistakes and through the difficulties that come to us. So it's an interesting area to look at and to reflect on deeply and to meditate on. So I don't know if you have any other thoughts about this, about how you feel we can develop our ability to discern. And just, please do write whatever comes to you. And in the meanwhile, I would like to read the little piece that I sent with the topic today, because I think it describes this whole capacity really nicely, and then we can have a meditation. So the power to discern, daily meditation nurtures your ability to see clearly, distinguishing fact from fiction, natural from synthetic, and necessary from irrelevant. In the fullness of your own company, new options emerge from their hiding place. So there's always another option hiding in there. And it's such a beautiful question to say, what is the option that I haven't yet thought of? And so new options emerge from their hiding place. The disappointments and joys in your life, now part of your inner map, let you know what is destructive and what is helpful. Aware of the responsibilities that go hand in hand with your right to choose, you ask, what is the best for everyone? Concentration on inner truth liberates you from all forms of greed, which can spin you into an illusion. And so the concentration on inner truth, which means that, well, actually, I already have what I need. And so I don't need this or any particular material object or physical thing or even person to complete me. And so, in fact, we talked about fear being one of the things that blurs our discernment, but it's also, so fear is like a threat, but it's also the temptation or the greed, actually, that blurs our ability to discern. So we see something, we're attracted by it, and we think that, yes, this is what will make me happy. This is what will make me peaceful. And we lose sight of the truth about ourselves and about the situation. So we lose our ability to look beyond that, to see beyond that. So anyway, maybe it's time for us to have a practice of the meditation. And then if there's anything more that anyone would like to add, then most welcome. So I'm going to share some music and a picture, and then we will see if I can put on the music. Here we go. Okay, so I hope that the music voice ratio is okay. Do let me know if the music is too loud, and we can now go into our meditation. So I take a deep breath and feel all the muscles in my body relaxing. I just take a moment to really feel that. Give permission to my entire body to settle down. I gently step inside into my deep inner awareness of myself as a living, conscious being of pure, peaceful, loving energy. With the story of my eternity recorded within me, I take a few moments to just be, in my original quality of peace, of quiet. I know that by doing this, I am recharging. I am refreshing and replenishing my energies. The focus of my attention is the exercise for my intellect. Maybe other thoughts come and go, but I have chosen the focus of my attention, which is to rest on the being of light, I, the soul, the living, conscious being of pure, blissful, peaceful, loving energy. I let myself be absorbed into this magnetic light. What's important right now is to just be, to enjoy being bathed by this light. as I recognize myself as a living being of consciousness, I connect my mind with the Supreme Being, who is also a being of consciousness. The source, however, has no need to recharge, but always remains full and abundant. With the light, the love, and the peace pouring out. And in fact, it is this complete love that I absorb, that I am bathed by. It is this that clarifies my intellect. It is love that forms the basis of my choices. I take a moment just to enjoy absorbing the peace, the purity, the love. In this space inside, I know that I can come just with a few thoughts whenever I wish. I can come, connect, and refresh. And now I prepare to make contact, first with my physical body, and then with my surroundings and the people with whom I will be interacting, the activities that I will be engaged in. I carry with me to all of that this energy of love. I let that flow into my choices. And so very gently, I guide my attention so that I am beginning to look through these eyes. I move my hands. I feel the breath going in and out. And I notice once again the softness or the hardness of the seat that I'm sitting on. I notice the colors around me. And I once again reconnect with this dimension of time and space, movement and sound. Thank you.